someone with the patience of an arsonist running a bakery, I've never really been able to get into bullet hells. Shmups, sure, but bullet hells specifically have always been an especially tough hymen for me to break into. Despite this, I recently played Sora by Orange Juice on a whim. The only other games I'd played by them were the retardedly fun 100% Orange Juice, in which I didn't understand the context of any of the characters but still enjoyed it anyway, and QP Shooting Dangerous, which has 2 exclamation points on the end of the title and thus conveys everything you need to know about the game. I picked up Sora and liked it enough that I wanted to try shelling it on the internet, so here we go. Sora is a niche little Japanese indie game released back in 2010, set as the prequel to the game Suguri, which I've never played. It's a side-scrolling bullet hell shmup with a unique selling point of being high speed. The story of Sora goes as follows. A young girl named Sora is an enhanced human, the ultimate weapon in a war being fought by 2 unknown sides for unknown reasons. Sora, which means sky in Japanese, loves the sky, not in a narcissistic way, it just comes off like that, and is disheartened that its beautiful blue appearance is now just a distant memory like the taste of insert discontinued brand of sweets here. After being hit by a kamikaze attack on her very first mission, Sora defects and seeks to end the war in order to stop the planet from being DP'd any harder. It's a simple plot that's tight, effective, and doesn't lose focus. As the game progresses, Sora's task to unfuck the world seems more and more hopeless as the other characters challenge her, e.g. by criticizing her for trying to stop the war by basically fighting in it anyway, or by being such completely unreasonable psychopaths that Sora wonders if the world hasn't already been permanently fucked and she's fighting for a cause long gone. The story isn't super deep. For example, we don't even know what the war is being fought over. Then again, since we're limited to the perspective of Sora who sees the war as meaningless anyway, this might actually be a positive in putting us into the shoes of Sora and some of the other characters. The story is focused more so on emotions rather than complex politics or whatever. It's about Sora, her dream of a blue sky and the war she fights against to reach that dream, and for me at least, the story managed to make me feel invested enough to want to see how Sora ended up. In fact, the ending was satisfying and emotional enough to make my heart grow 3 sizes. For a bit anyway. I didn't cry, shut up. The presentation helps a lot with this, particularly in atmosphere. Sora's right to complain about the crap weather, because it's as if England's sky has spread across the whole fucking planet like an infectious parasite, and not one of the hot ones. The sky is either cloudy, foggy, or on fire, and there's a constant sense of gloom to the battlefield. The only source of light seems to come from the lasers, missiles, and explosions which overwhelm both Sora and the screen. The character art is what the connoisseurs would call extremely moe, with an all-female cast, bar one female brain and a male body, but hey, that's a moe gap for you, competing to see who can be the cutest war criminal. It might pull you out of the whole depressing war scenario thing if you aren't used to this kind of thing, but personally it didn't bother me in the slightest, and the art does its best to convey the personality of the characters. Sora is serious and determined, but also pained by everything around her. I won't show her to avoid being a spoil sport, but the final boss's artwork manages to portray her crazy genocidal shtick quite well, with unnatural eyes, a head slightly raised so it always looks like she's looking down on you, and a sneer like she's just found an old person who's never heard of a pyramid scheme before. The hordes of mob enemies are simple, uninteresting robots with no real outstanding qualities. It's kind of neat how the 2 armies have slightly different robot designs, but you might not even tell at first glance. Unless both sides get their robots from the same factory, I don't see why they couldn't be a bit more different. In defense of the designers, this helps with clarity. When you see a robot, you can figure out what it's about in an instant. Small robot, weaker and gonna spam lasers at me. Big robot with missile silos for arms, yes class, very good. The design works, although works is the working verb here. The mid-bosses are what do it for me. They're real big and imposing, taking up a fuck ton of space on the screen. The stage 3 mid-boss drops from above like I did after being ripped from the womb, and in both instances heavy damage is done. The actual bosses get the most attention in the creativity department, but I've gone over that already. What I haven't gone over is the music by Deku, all caps. In my opinion, Sora's soundtrack is pretty fucking good if you'll excuse my language. Now, I'm definitely no music analyst. I can listen to pretty much everything with no complaints, but don't actually listen to anything if you see the problem. Especially with games. As long as it's not some obvious shitty loop of the same rusty scalpel eviscerating my ears, I couldn't care less. What's important to me is that the music is used right. Silent Hill, 3 specifically comes to mind, but any example you like will do, sweetie, has a good soundtrack and good use of it too. Deus Ex and Thief are the only other examples that come to my borderline amnesiac mind, but you think of what makes you happy. Point is, music is subjective, aka I wouldn't trust myself to talk about it objectively, and I'm outlining my taste in the hope my praise of Sora's soundtrack comes across better. Oh wait, I have another idea on how to do that in way fewer words. Sora has good music. Sora has good music. Sora has good music. Understand? No? Fine. Okay. I have no experience with the trance genre, but I think the soundtrack fits the game well. What I like about the songs is how they simultaneously are energizing and tense with a bit of melancholy in some of the tracks. The songs progress and change, both individually as the song plays and as a cohesive soundtrack, i.e. songs in later stages become more distressing and chaotic. I wish I could explain how I think this is done, but I really can't. The best I can do is show you some of my favorites. I'll compare the songs that open stage 2 and stage 3. I've only played the starts of these songs, but you should get a sense of what I meant earlier when I called the soundtrack both energizing and tense. They also fit their environments, but again, subjective. There are a few songs with English vocals, which usually sets off by a secondhand embarrassment alarm, especially in the context of anime or small budget Japanese games, since you get the problem of English, which sounds like the singer is making fun of their own accent. But in Sora's case, I actually didn't find the vocals pain-inducing. It could have just been that the game had sufficiently drawn me in by that point, and these songs were used at plot-critical moments, so I ended up enjoying them by association, but I don't think that's the case. You'll have to judge for yourself. I actually bought both soundtracks through the Blue Sky edition on Steam, which includes Sora no Kakera and Celeste, the latter being the extra soundtrack and features some unused stuff as well. Worth it in my opinion because you get 2 hours of great music. There's no jukebox feature in the actual game, but I do like sucking indie cock, and the music I guess, so I didn't have a problem with buying the soundtrack. Hopefully that shows how much I liked the music, but if my opinion doesn't matter then that's okay I guess. Now that I've brushed the smell of cum out of my teeth, I can move on from the music to the actual gameplay. Ah shit, I can already taste them. The 7 stages plus an extra stage and a tutorial, in case you count that for some reason, which you might since it sets up some plot elements. There are multiple difficulties: easy by bullet hell standards, normal by bullet hell standards, and hard by bullet hell standards. Different game modes as well. Story mode is the gentle vanilla mode that lets you pick the stage you want to do as long as you've done the stage before it. Arcade mode is for the masochists who want to try running every stage in a row without dying, although there's some mercy in that health is restored after every stage. Finally, there's match mode for the most practiced perverts. Refight a boss and go for the best score, with the additional option of the special difficulty which pushes the boss into absolute buttfuck mode. Your butt, not theirs. You progress through each stage whacking bots, dodging projectiles, fight a mid-boss and finish with a boss. Standard shmup affair, right? Wrong. Sora isn't called a high-speed bullet hell for nothing. Sora's USP is a dash ability which lets you zoom across the screen at a speed which is both slightly too fast and not fast enough. This feature is the main star of the game, and looking at it in action might make it seem hard to control, but playing on a controller I found it worked better than expected. Tapping the dash button allows you to do a hard change of direction whenever you want, at the cost of jumping up the heat ranking, so you can hold it for a relatively straightforward arc across the sky, or mash the button like as to fight a boss of the legendary Starfy and become a human pinball. There are 2 types of projectile, beam and live, which is like missiles and bullets and such. The dash lets you pass through beam projectiles unmolested, but raises your heat. Your heat is that little percentage in the top left and caps at 300%. This increases how much damage you'll take from whatever attack hits you next, so if you're too carefree zipping across the whole screen thinking you're invincible just because beams can't touch you and you run headfirst into the hard-hitting live ammo, well, it seems like the ensuing brain damage won't affect you too seriously. If you do get hit, you'll notice that you don't die instantly like in some shmups. That's because Sora uses a health system as opposed to lives, so it's a bit forgiving in that sense. When you get hit, although some health is lost forever like my innocence after realizing Santa's lap was an elevator, the red portion can be gained back by passing attacks using your dash. Of course, it's easy to lose it all again since enemies crawl in everywhere like spiders and spit hot sticky missiles all over you. Luckily, you have some tools to help free up screen space. Sora can carry 3 weapons on an operation: a main, a sub, and a special. Generally, the weapons also fall into one of the beam or live categories as well, with beam weapons being easy to use and penetrating through enemy live projectiles like a worm through soggy paper, right, but a simile later, whereas live weapons can't break through live projectiles but have special properties, like homing in on targets or ricocheting off the edge of the screen. Some weapons aren't necessarily limited to 1 out of 3 slots either. Some can be in 2 slots, so you might toss up between bringing the big fuck off laser cannon as a main or a sub, and that can affect your whole loadout. There's a good amount of variety in the weapons, and even the ones you start with maintain their usefulness. There's no definite ultimate weapon that is necessary to have a good time, at least in my opinion. They all have their own uses, and it's about finding the right set for your playstyle / situation. Maybe you're really good at predicting / memorizing where the enemy will be, so you bring a trap weapon, that kind of thing. Just going through the stages and bosses with different weapon combinations adds adds a lot of replay value to the game. Every weapon also has a unique hyper attack, which can be used when there's at least one stock out of a max of 3 in the hyper gauge in the upper left corner, which fills as you pass by attacks, i.e. catch attacks in your little dash rings. Hypers make you temporarily invincible, clear a chunk of projectiles from around you, and do damage in the form of huge lasers or missile barrages or other fucking wacky special effects. They're great for when you fuck up, or when you want to fuck the enemy up, or when you're fucked up and you just want to show off. But you can't just fire off bullets and lasers all willy-nilly, you silly suicidal sausage. Using a weapon leaves you vulnerable. You really think you can shoot while spinning like a malfunctioning spit roast? You have to find the right openings. Not only to dodge enemy fire, but also to find the right moment to counterattack. It creates an interesting contrast to other bullet hell games my friends tell me to shut up about, such as, say, Toho, in which you might as well just tape the shoot key down. The bullet patterns in Sora aren't as complex or overwhelming, but you can't just focus on dodging. You have to fight back, no timing out the boss here. This opens up different tactics. Do you play it safe and whittle down the boss, or go all in with a suicide attack, beat the boss to pieces while taking a few of, well, all of their attacks on the chin? Finding these opportunities is helped with the cancel system. You can cut short the vulnerability period of firing a weapon by immediately inputting a dash after firing. Alternatively, certain weapons can cancel into other weapons. This builds up heat as quickly as a Fedora owner builds up sexual harassment charges, but it keeps you moving and dodging. While the heat mechanic could be called an incentive to slow down and not dash and cancel as much, I see it more as a limiter. When you're just starting out, you will get hit, so it's in your best interest to minimize the damage you'll take. So you'll look for bigger openings and safe spots that'll give you room to not have to dash or cancel. Eventually, you'll become confident enough to dodge live ammunition, and that heat gauge won't be a measure of how vulnerable you are, but of your elite status. But Moth, I hear you squeal in your girly little voice. There are so many bullets I can't possibly dodge them all. Except you can, and you will. You just need some practice. Sora advertises itself as a tactical bullet hell as well on its Steam page, but I wasn't so sure of this. Usually when I hear a game is tactical, it just means it's really fucking boring. You'll find that Sora actually is a fun tactical game when you understand how the mechanics work. You'll see what I mean if we do a quick fight analysis. Yes, it's hard to believe, but that minute-long clip I just forced you to sit through was recorded with a purpose beyond giving me material for later tonight. The fight in particular is against Alti, the boss of stage 1, on special difficulty. I've practiced against the boss before, so I picked my weapons while keeping in mind how I want to fight her. I bring the Rifle H, which is a beam type weapon that does more damage the higher your heat is and fires in a particular way if you use it while dashing. My sub is the Bazooka, a simple straight traveling live weapon that does more damage the closer you are. I don't plan to use it, but I bring the Power Bunker since it gives you iframes at the beginning of its attack, which can be used in a pinch. But enough about what I'm packing, let's see it in action. Because the Bazooka does more damage up close, I look for opportunities to get closer. The two little pods she sends out are dangerous, since they are basically floating beam turrets that fire whenever you are in line of sight, so I take them out real quick with a point blank bazooka. Here you can see how the lock on works. It's automatic and generally useful, but only locks onto whatever is closest. So you can see me struggle to lock off from the little pod that orbits around Alti like that one friend we don't want to talk about. Unlike the other pods, that pod is basically just Alti's lock on, and on special difficulty it respawns basically instantly, so I focus on the boss instead. She can spawn 2 layers of missiles around her, so I can't be up in her face constantly. However, with my rifle I can shoot 3 shots while dashing, which penetrate through the layers and gives me some breathing room. Bonus points if the beams hit her. You'll notice when she attacks, she tends to follow up with minigun fire. This serves to cover herself in case you try to counterattack too carelessly. She sends the 2 turrets out again since she's lost a health bar, and instead of using my bazooka, I choose my rifle to try and penetrate both at once since they've lined up quite nicely. When she uses that screen-wide beam attack thing, it's best to try and dash to the Eye of the Storm, since she can attack from inside there if Alti doesn't have her minigun out. On her last health bar, Alti will use a new attack where she chases with a melee thing and does lots of damage if she hits you, while also shooting out missiles which boomerang back. So now you have a conundrum. You have to move fast to avoid the boss while being careful not to run into any of the missiles on their way out or in. I'm about to run into a missile, but by dashing against the edge of the screen, I can slow myself down just enough for the missile to pass while giving me time to escape ulti. The return path of the missiles is hard to predict, but I've saved my hypers for a reason. Once you beat ulti, all you need to do is reject her suicide hug and you win, and I definitely haven't fallen for that trick more than once. I'm not trying to say Sora is like chess with guns or anything, but you can see how thought goes into the encounter. Plus, this is only one boss out of several. There are also different encounters with mobs and mid-bosses within stages that create unique scenarios for you to fight through. And most situations in the game are more complex and challenging than the boss I showed. Not only that, but the different loadouts you bring can affect your tactics. I brought fast, simple weapons to match my sexual technique, but you might want a pulse gun that requires larger openings in order to charge, or mines that need advanced prep. Thanks to the variety of stages and weapons, the gameplay isn't static, even on replays. So that's Sora, a true hidden gem. While some of the graphics are bland, I think that was intentional so as not to get in the way of the gameplay, but hey, that's just me working the shaft. Nice story, good music, great gameplay. Plus the game is pretty cheap, so there's no reason not to at least try it. This was the first time I've made a video like this, so hopefully it was enjoyable or instructive. If you sat through until the end, I hope you can get your bindings undone soon. Thanks for watching.